Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing something a little bit different. I don't know how often I can say a little bit different before it just becomes a meme or like, Steven, it's not different. You do nothing the same every time. Inconsistency is the consistency of the channel. Anyway, today we are reacting to programmer scenes from TVs and movie. Now, the video I found, I've never seen. It says best coding scenes in movies and TV series. Pod the app, whatever that means. And yeah, if you see or if you know of any scenes in TV shows or movies that you would like me to react to that are programming centric, throw them in the comments. I will try to pick out some of them and throw them in the next reaction. If you want to see another reaction, let me know. So anyway, we're going to hop in. I'm going to don my headphones. Yes. Yes, indeedy. All right. So again, I haven't seen any of this, and this is totally ad hoc. This is a weird recording setup. I'm not used to this. I have all four of my screens going at once. Yes, I have four screens because I'm a screen maniac. I don't need this many, but I wanted this many. Get over it. All right, let's hop in. Okay, so we got The Social Network. Jesse Eisenberg drinking a beer, probably. Looks like a Stella Artois. Perhaps a Heineken ripoff. Some guy in the background. All right, hold on. Let's go back to that. Kirkland House Facebook. I mean, that makes sense. Facebook was originally supposed to be a website for like meeting up with people and studying, so that 100% makes sense. Links off to the left. The indentation is an interesting choice. I'm not sure what it looked like back then. I never used it, obviously, when it was in that phase. Although I was one of the first people in my friend group to use Facebook, and then I got kicked off of Facebook because I wasn't supposed to have one because I was too young for it. So anyway, here he is. Looks like he's typing some stuff. Pausing. Get hotness like the like we're going to need is a lot of pictures. A public centralized Facebook. So I'm okay. So it looks like he's just. Okay, so a post successful. Yep, makes sense. He's developing a website. A post is a push upward. Okay, so just testing stuff out, it looks like. Okay, so here we actually have, is this... Okay, this is Linux. Face Mash. Ooh, Face Mash photos. Okay, so that's a cute little Easter egg. Not very often do programmers have a final name in their path. Usually it's some sort of code name, or usually if it's just somebody in their dorm room or their basement or something like that, they're usually just like joke folders. Like I've made a number of folders that are just obscenities that that are just in there because I don't know what to name it, so I just name it something. wget is a Linux command. Okay, so getting a photo, somebody lighting up, looks like a cigarette or a joint in the background. He's just going through files and files, moving stuff over, I'm guessing, to a server. Nothing seems out of place. Yeah, writing HTML code. This actually looks fairly accurate. Looks like he's in a QA phase, though. It doesn't look like he's actually programming a ton. Which, I've never seen this movie, ever, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's in the QA phase. There's a ton of QAing stuff. Did he go through and manually enter all of the user info originally? Is that something he did? Wait. Is there any way I can see that code? Can I force it? It's like a super poor rip. Okay, so he's writing in Perl? Is Facebook written in Perl? Or just was it? I mean, print, while, range. I mean, it's super fuzzy, so I can't see a ton of it. Reach buffer. Is that micro buffer? I can't really read any of it. I mean, from a, like... If I take my glasses off, maybe? No. Honestly, the prints, the whiles, the syntax of Perl looks familiar. I don't know Perl personally, but I know PHP, I know C#, I know Java, I know a bunch of other languages, and this looks relatively close. If not, it's pretty accurate to the way code looks. The montage is fun because it doesn't show you the hours and hours and days and months and years that go into actually developing this stuff. It takes forever. It is also accurate that programmers tend to use the keyboard more so than the mouse. But as you go up the management chain, oh, we're into a different one. As you go up into the management chain in any kind of business, you start to use the mouse way more than the keyboard. Okay, Silicon Valley, headphones on. I've never seen this either, but he's just got headphones on, and they're probably noise canceling. He's just cranking away on a Mac. Whoa, hold on. We're switching over to like quick snapshots of command lines. Or, okay, IRC, okay. Total servers on the IRC with an average, I mean, only if that metric is exposed. Not very often do you get metrics that aren't explicitly exposed by a programmer, so I don't know what stage of development this is. I don't even know what this is. Sorry if you hear thumping, that's my cat using one of the litter boxes in behind that door there. Join the gentleman was synced in the double exclamation mark. It's a really funny, like, is a really funny thing. Bitch hacking. Yep. I mean, most of that looks pretty accurate. Actually, the exclamation points are extremely accurate. Like I've got no problems with that because it's very on par. There are some really ridiculous ones. There's a package manager called like Chocolatey. There are all kinds of. There used to be a website called Commits from Last Night, and it was all of the like commits using a website called Git that had obscenities in them. And I think the website got taken down when Microsoft bought GitHub or something like that, but it sucks. It was hilarious because it was exactly what programmers do. Everything in order, typical prompt back. Okay, we got split screens here. Looks like running Ubuntu archives for Trusty. I don't know why. Oh, this is Mr. Robot. This is a different one. Okay. There's like this weird portrayal of programmers that we always sit in the dark. It's not wrong, but there are a lot of us too that have moved away from that and gone to something like, well, it doesn't show up as much in video. Go figure. This does not prove my point at all. But we sit in warm temperature lighting. There's actually a setting on most computers now called a night light that will occlude the blue on your screen. So it'll just be like a sepia tint to it. To help keep your eyes from straining super hard. But coding with a lamp in front of you like that, it's going to hurt your eyes more, so that's not super accurate, but what are you going to do? The lamp behind, though, yeah, that's fairly accurate. The computer that close to your elbow, maybe if you're like super congested or whatever and your floor's a mess, or maybe you have really dense carpeting, but most of the time if you have that small of a desk, your computer's down below, but personal preference, not that big of a deal. Whoop. Give me that sweet syntax, baby. Show me what you got. All right, what are you working with? Working directory, exploit payload up at the top. Default options, payload, Android. Honestly, the none of this actually looks that far out. Update version to advertise to the client 1337. 1337 versions? I mean, maybe. That might be a different argument altogether, though. Deregister options, JS, like JavaScript obfuscate? I guess so. Interesting. Send response, CLI. CLI is a command line interface. Magic headers. That sounds like a name somebody would give it. I know in the past I've run into some fun like parameter fixes that are like we fixed this thing, and then we had to fix that fix, and then there's a fix to that fix. So instead of naming it something like a version number, we would name it just like the fix to fix the fix kind of thing. It's really bad practice because it doesn't tell you what it's doing. If else, that looks like he's writing in Python, not in Android. You could run Python on Android, but I don't know why you would. Let me know why you would write Python on Android, other than like maybe being lightweight. This like 4-window setup. Now I don't know anything about this movie or anything like that. I don't know anything about any of these movies so far, other than a bit about the Mark Zuckerberg, the social network one. But running a screen like this, if you're running on Linux, probably, because this would have likely been before snapping, window snapping in corners, but most programmers I know don't work this congested. If you don't have a clean workspace, I do know one that works kind of like this, and it's terrifying. But if you work in a workspace that's super congested, your development is going to be congested. You're going to get confused. You're going to be super inefficient. And most people, believe it or not, don't like to be inefficient. Nothing from a programmer standpoint is really off, but most of the programmers I know would just go out and pick up another monitor. And if they couldn't afford one, they'd like borrow one from a friend or something like that. Or they'd have one command line up with their major stuff. And really, you're not monitoring 4 windows at once. This is something that movies and TV shows do a lot to just kind of screw around with, like trying to make you think that we're smarter than you are. We're not. We're normal people. Served payloads. Okay. Stopping to talk to people. Yeah, we're not usually super expressive. I might actually be a little bit of an exception. Although programmers are becoming a lot more charismatic now. I'm actually one of the few programmers I know that's actually super charismatic and very extroverted. So cool. We're getting into, looks like Aisha or AI Shah. Which is an interesting play because it'd be artificial intelligence, and then SHA, which is a form of authentication or encryption, rather. So that's interesting. Most of these images really don't have that much. It's super loud. Okay, so programming on Windows. I'll be interested to see any programming that comes out of this, because when you're programming on Windows, you have a number of options. And they're usually pretty big players in the industry. So let's see what we've got. Okay. Running out of command line, that's fine. Running Windows 10. I don't know. It's a nice touch having the nerdy posters in the background with the Space Invaders decals or whatever. He's using an Alienware laptop, which companies don't really provision Alienware laptops to my knowledge. If this is his personal laptop, dude, buy something better. Alienware sucks since Dell bought them out. Just as a heads up. Alright, so he's got a gamer rig. He's got, again, the window clutter, like having Chrome tabs up like that and like windows everywhere and scattered, makes it look like we're super busy and we can read all that, but I don't know of any programmer that actually does it like that, because it's way too muddy. Trying to find the window you're working on is a mess. I do know one that I would say would absolutely do that, but it's pretty few and far between. I did know one guy that, by the name of Aaron, actually, who had like 300. Like, no joke, we counted them. We installed an extension, actually, that counted the tabs, and there were 300 tabs open, and you could only see, like, little mountain spikes in the title bar. It was disgusting. It was awful. You couldn't find anything. So, what's cool about this is it's showing, I mean, it is a montage, but it's showing, like, the speed really is this condensed version of the stress and the annoyance that goes into some of the programming. It's a legitimate issue that there's so much to do and so very little time, because you always have these artificial deadlines imposed. Also, weird apartment, but that has nothing to do with programming.
Here we go.
You just can't help yourself.
Here we go, what? My big problem with that entire thing was that it showed no programming. All it showed was a bunch of like Chrome windows and then some guy like with his hand. I mean, that could have been a frustrated investor. That could have been a business manager. That could have been some art collector trying to figure out where he's going to buy again. Like that could have been anything. That wasn't programmer specific. Not in my mind. Joma Tech. All right, so it looks like he's doing. Okay. All right. What's the name of these? It looks like a network diagram, an ERD. Okay, so yeah, he's doing. This is something that actually happens a lot, and actually, I've got a little bit of it back here on my whiteboard. You'll see some other stuff I drew for my kid, but this is a spec out. This is actually a infrastructure diagram of an app, whether it be a mobile app, as the phone is indicating, or a web interface. Typically, you don't see a desktop app talking to a mobile app talking to that. You see a server talking to those clients. So this is actually pretty accurate. There's a database down below. I'll be interested to see if it shows how they tie that in. Okay, so I don't like that. So what's weird about this is you've got the clients in red. You've got this client phone, or I'm guessing that's a web browser at the top, right? And then you've got these boxes, looks like export or expert, and then I can't read the others. They all look like they're the same word, so maybe they're all export. But then he's got two of them going to a database, and he's got something else going to a cloud. That's not how that would go. It would probably go something more like you'd have your database. The database is the cylinder that he's got there. It's supposed to represent hard disks. So it's databases on a hard disk. And that would be far to the left over there. And then you'd have a flow to a server rack, because it would live on the servers, and then the server would represent likely a web server, and then you'd have the cloud connecting to that, because you'd have some sort of broadcasting server that it's probably built into the same server, could be separated depending on security measures, and then the cloud would be what everything reaches into. That would be an API of some sort. In this case, typically standard is going to be a REST API. Used to be a SOAP API, which was XML. But REST APIs are fairly standard, and we're starting to fracture out into other kinds of APIs now. But this diagram is weird because the cloud would not be separated from the database. You wouldn't have things. You really wouldn't have things going to the cloud and to a database because of security protocols and some of the dependencies. It's very, very clunky to try to do it that way. That doesn't make sense to me at all. CDN, Cloud Distributed Network, maybe? And he's got a box up above it. I don't know what that would be. Maybe a reporting service. And that's definitely a web browser in the upper left. Can you clarify it? Rack focus. Yes. Okay, beautiful. So, S3. I think S3 is a cloud service. I could be wrong. But they've got assets. They've got EC2. I still can't read that black text. Looks like experts. Load. Angular is a web platform. React Native. Not that I know of. I don't know if React is native on mobile devices. I don't know anything about Apple development, for the record, because I don't own an Apple device other than my wife has an Apple phone. But Angular is a web development system. So is React, though, and they usually go hand in hand. You wouldn't really see that unless you're doing an Electron app for a mobile device. If you're not familiar with Electron apps, it's essentially developing the same app, and it's deliverable in multiple platforms. A good example of that is Slack, and I'm pretty sure Discord is as well. So they look the exact same on the phone versus a computer screen versus something else, right? But the user and data in the database section there in the lower left disconnected from the cloud, and the cloud isn't like connected to anything, and that's weird. No, you'd have your web browser and your mobile phone connecting to your cloud. Essentially, they'd be pulling everything from the cloud, which would be broadcasting and receiving and redirecting all of your API calls. All of your API calls would then go to endpoint routing, which would be these boxes, depending on the diagram, which, I don't know, this diagram just feels like it's vaguely programmatic. But then you'd have that stuff go into a server for business logic validation, and then you'd have that go, or business logic operation and validation for data, and then that would go into the database of some sort. And this isn't even pointing out what kind of database it would be. Yeah, so this is close. I can give this like a 6, maybe a 7 out of 10 for accuracy, because they've got a lot of the concepts there, but they're not quite hooked up right. Not my favorite flowchart. I do love me a good flowchart. Mean stack tutorial. Okay. What is mean stack? Mongoose. Okay. Express, connect flash, database.js. Yeah. Okay. That's fair. I'll buy that. Port 8080. That's accurate. 8080 is a pretty universal alternative port for a web address. What's weird to me is that they have this process environment port or 8080. Okay, so if the port would be, maybe if it's a null check, that would be a null coalescence. That's weird to me. That feels a little bit weird, that syntax, but I don't know what programming language this is off the top of my head. I'm guessing it's probably JavaScript or React, and I don't know React specifically. But then to have Mongoose connect to a different port altogether, maybe that's fine if you're pulling in a separate resource. But 8080 is used as a secondary port to port 80, which is the most common port. That is the one that is accessed for all of the web traffic that is out there for a public domain. So when you go to GoDaddy or Google or Amazon or whatever, you're usually going to port 80. And then if it's supposed to go somewhere else on the server actually points it to a different port, which is what that last line would be there. That console.log, magic happens on port. Console.log is an interesting one to see there. Okay, so it is Node.js. REST API tutorial. Okay, so he's using JSON, which is like my favorite form of data transference because it's just a string. I love Scotch. I love that. I love that so much because I don't know if you can see it. That's all whiskey. And I love Scotch. But this will let us get data from a post. I mean, these comments are accurate. Configure app. This is very much like notes to the developer themselves. These are code comments. The light blue preceding with a double /. Client secrets, yeah, fairly accurate. Yeah, I don't really take any issue with most of this. Simple authentication. These are actual Google terms that are used even by experienced programmers because when you're learning a new stack or a new programming language or something like that, it takes some time to get used to mapping what you know from one language to another. I had to do that the entire time that I was learning Java and Python. And I did it to C# because that's my native language in programming. Yep. Yeah, no, none of this is bad. None of this is awful. Express HTML template. Yep, the number of times I've looked up boilerplate code. I did it like 2 weeks ago. Bootstrap, password, Bootstrap against Node.js. Yeah, that's fair. Bootstrap is a common styling guide for websites.
Let's do it.
Let's do what? The stickers on the laptops, absolutely accurate. The deadpan face going into it, just looking at a screen, absolutely. Although, once again, most of the programmers I know would prefer to have a secondary monitor because trying to program on a single monitor is kind of a pain in the butt. It's not a necessary thing to have a second one, but it helps you declutter your space heavily. And I actually have one, Asus makes one called the Zen Screen Go that I've really enjoyed. It has a battery in it so I can take it to client meetings and stuff if I need to, but I'm not sponsored by them. They're a little bit pricey, but you can get portable, like USB-C enabled external displays for a couple $100. It's really not bad. Now we're getting into the fun stuff. So first of all, No. That keyboard, none of those symbols mean anything to me. There's one like in between his right hand there, like his thumb and his index finger, that's like a plus sign. That looks like the multi-directional cardinal arrows, but none of those symbols mean anything to me. File management's the only thing that means it. Oh, save. Okay. Yeah.
I'd like to open a new project.
It's a nice touch off to the side there.
I'd like to open.
As he's talking, it's showing his voice to text in the upper right, which is a visual flair thing. When you're watching the movie, you don't necessarily catch that, but it's something else that's happening, which is interesting. I appreciate that they're doing that. Because voice to text, it's always really nice to confirm that the system is reading your voice the way it's supposed to be. But these wireframe diagrams would be a lot messier, actually, because of like certain renders that you would see for the Iron Man suit on the left. The number of console windows he's got open, yeah, probably for multi-processes or multiple servers running. He is running this complex system. I don't know what the orb on the right there is for. It looks like it's just some stress ball on the screen.
Shall I store this on the side?
It is accurate, actually, to see a jukebox. Like, not most programmers I know don't have like a jukebox, but a lot of the programmers I know are into some sort of retro tech. So they'll have like retro gaming consoles, retro printers, like retro computers hanging around. Like old tech is, especially Game Boys for some reason, like is like this big thing that programmers really like to have, this vintage homage almost. Having some sort of little dongle thing to do this Microsoft AR thing that he's got going on for this Hollow Vision or HoloLens, I think is what Microsoft called theirs. It's a cool concept. Not cheap. The technology does exist to a degree, but not quite like they're displaying here.
Right now.
If you're interested, I'll see if I can find a link to the Microsoft HoloLens demonstration with Minecraft. It was actually really fascinating. I think it was from like 2015, but I don't know if that ever came to fruition for an actual consumer product.
We show them something new, Sax?
Sure. Let's take our experience off the wall and then put it on the table over here. Create world. I see Lydia way up there.
As I run around and play, Sax can easily navigate and manipulate the world using his voice and his hands. He can walk around the hologram, pan around for different viewpoints, and even look inside.
Till further notice, why don't we just keep everything on my private server?
Private server makes sense. Programmers often do have private servers, even if it's just a partition on your current computer. We keep a lot of stuff there to keep it separate from our day-to-day work stuff. I happen to have a whole other computer that I used to use for my gaming PC that I have just as a file server for the video stock that I have for this. Oops. Okay, so spinning stuff around while he's just standing there looking at it, unless he's compiling or trying to think through an issue, probably not. Drinking coffee, 100% accurate. Just throwing things in there, no. That's not how they would flow. They would clip through into place because it doesn't make sense for a computer to do all this doily stuff. That's just visual sugar. Oh, and that's it. Okay, so I think I talked enough on this one. I mean, the actual video clip that I watched was only 4.5 minutes, but there's a lot to talk about there. All in all, some of the better ones that I've seen. Most of these were actually pretty solid. Couple of inaccuracies, especially when you get the business person in there trying to talk through a flow chart for a server architecture is always fun. And then obviously, anytime you get Marvel involved, something's going to be exploded out of the realm of reality. So interesting. Take it with a grain of salt. This was better than I thought it would be. I'm expecting the next set, if I watch another set, to be absolute garbage. Because if it's anything like the stuff you see on like NCIS or anything like that, it's going to be garbage. I can almost guarantee it. So anyway, thanks so much for watching this this video, this reaction. I'm not usually a big like create reaction content kind of person, but if you like it, let me know. It was a lot of fun watching this actually. And if you have suggestions for other clips or other things you would like me to react to, let me know. I might take up some other stuff. Until then, hit the like, comment, subscribe, check boxes in your daily life for my channel. And until next time, have a good one.